Hi, and welcome back to the Turning 30 podcast, the place where we talk about what it's really like to be in your 30s. I'm your host, life coach Emma Wilson, and I'm here to help you feel better, be more confident, and get unstuck in your 30s. If you are calling in healthy and aligned partnership in 2026, then this is the podcast for you. And today we're going to be diving into a favorite topic of mine when it comes to dating, and that is all about the slow burn. Why I'm a huge fan of the slow burn and why I think that the slow burn can actually lead to a relationship quicker. Now, maybe you're thinking, Emma, what are you talking about, the slow burn? You met Ellie and then 9 months later, you're already pregnant. And I know that many of you know my story is telling a lot of my community and audience that things can change very, very quickly when you're in your 30s. And that might actually seem dissonant with saying the slow burn. But I want to be very, very clear here. Just because things can move fast when it comes to timelines, milestones, these big steps, it doesn't mean that things have to go very, very fast from the first date. And that was not my experience at all in dating. Ellie and I actually were friends before for a couple of years. So things had been festering and also our relationship had been gaining traction and gaining depth for a long time, which I know is quite a unique experience. But when we actually did start dating, things were burning actually quite slowly. And I remember that freaked me out because the slow burn for women in their 30s actually can feel very confronting. This episode is going to talk all about why I'm a fan of the slow burn, but also why in your 30s you feel that need to rush, but actually it's the slowing down where the magic lies. So let's talk firstly about the fast burn. And we can't miss the topic of love bombing, but I actually don't want to focus on that today. So love bombing is when you first date somebody and all of a sudden they, after the first date, are saying, I can see a marriage with you, I want you to be the mother of my children, I love you, all of these things that happen very, very quickly. I think that most of us have become attuned to understanding that love bombing is not the thing and to quite quickly to calm that down. And I think a practical way to do that, if you experience love bombing, is telling the person that you want to take things slower. But let's not focus on that. Let's just focus on regular dating with somebody who is starting a connection. Now, when it comes to the slow burn, I think that it can feel very testing of patience, but the fast burn can feel rushed. The fast burn can feel as though you're running towards the goal of something, and actually along the way, you're skipping the check-ins. You're skipping, how do I really feel? And I think that what happens when we're running too fast, or when the person that we're dating is also running too fast, it feels as though we're not choosing because we're just swept up. We're swept up in emotions, we're swept up in all of the drama, we're swept up in all of the fantasy of what it really is. But that fantasy, that drama is going to wear off. It will wear off at some point. Now, maybe you're thinking, which is something I used to think a lot in my dating chapter, I used to think, oh, but I saw that person on Instagram. I have a very specific person in mind who met her partner. They went on this date and 3 weeks later, he proposed to her. They moved countries. They now live together. They have 7 kids. And these stories, yes, they happen. I'm not saying they don't happen, but it's just like anything in the world. There are always different examples. Your mind will focus on that example because that's how you movie envisaged that it would happen. Hollywood, Disney, however you want to call it, has given you some belief that it might happen that way. And you know what? It might. But I would say that 95% of the time that I hear a dating story from a woman who is on her journey, who is in the first throes of dating with somebody, when she says after the first date, I met my future husband, I'm usually very cautious because we just don't know somebody that well then. I don't think we need to date somebody for 7 years when we're in our 30s in order to get married. Absolutely not. But there is a cadence, a way of getting to know somebody in a slower, more paced fashion that is going to serve us better in the long run. So I don't think fast burns are actually going to get you to the place that you want to be, even though they can probably feel more exciting and more how you envisage that you would find love in your mind, in your expectations. So what really is a slow burn? I think that the slow burn happens when we don't try to rush ahead of actually what feels comfortable for us. And for each person, that will be very different. But for many of us, I think it means that at least going on 3 to 5 dates before we actually make any bold statements about this person, or we really take away any conclusions about what is going to happen in the future. And this is difficult. Do you know how many first dates I went on? I actually remember a very specific story in person that I went on a first date with somebody after we met in real life. It was a really, really romantic meet cute that we met when we were both walking and looked at each other. Then we swapped numbers. We went on a date and it was just perfection. It was one of the best first dates I've ever been on. And I said to all of my friends, he's my future husband. And as soon as I said that, it's like ding, 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 red flag, because he wasn't my future husband. It wasn't Ellie. And there were so many things about this person that I just didn't know until I really, truly got to know him. And actually, that became very clear on the second date. We had really contrasting life stages, values, geographical location. All of the things weren't aligned. But my mind was so attuned to things moving quickly and what we call future tripping in dating, which is where you project the fantasy of how you want something to be, that in that moment, there was no such thing as slow burning. Slow burning is when we prioritize consistency over rushing, over how quickly things need to progress. It's when we focus more on authentic communication and really watching this person almost from an objective point of view and checking them. And that's what dating is. You know, dating really is about checking somebody. It's about seeing, is this person somebody I can imagine building a life with? Do we share the same values? Are we in the same stage of life? Do we want the same things? Are we both looking to live our life in a similar way? And we can't check those things on the first date. I also want to remind you that usually in the first, second, third, maybe even up to dates 5, 6, 7, we're not being our true self. We're all wearing our dating masks. We're all showing up feeling like we have to portray a version of ourselves in order to receive love and approval and validation. And this is even to those of you who say, no, Emma, I'm super authentic when it comes to dating. I just show up as myself. Take me or leave me. This is who I am. Of course, we can think that we're doing that. But when we're on dates with people and we're sitting across from them, we want them to perceive us in a certain way. So maybe we're going to be more shy. Maybe we're going to be a little more energetic than usual, or a little more positive, or maybe the opposite. Maybe we're going to be more protective, more guarded. Maybe you're a person who it takes a while for your personality to shine through. And the same goes for the person on the other side as well. I know so many people who went on first, second, third dates with their partners and said, no. You don't hear these stories because these aren't the love stories that are Instagram worthy and people love sharing. But I hear these stories a lot. I went on the first date. He was quite shy. He was quite introvert. He asked me some awkward questions. He spoke a lot about his, I don't know, thing. I would say he spoke a lot about his ex, but I actually think that can be quite a big red flag. But in general, we don't always show up as the truest version of ourselves in dating because dates are uncomfortable. They put us in a position where we're meeting somebody new, we feel like we're being judged, we can feel like it's an interview as well, and maybe we're also the one doing the judging and the interviewing. So we need to remember that the masks don't truly come off for the first part of dating. How do you get over this? How do you get over the masks that people put on in dating? I'm a huge advocate of going on dates where you're in a comfortable situation. For every person, that's different. For me, that looked like going on dates which were walking the dog, going to a dog park, sitting, having coffee, going to pick up coffee and sitting somewhere in a park. Obviously, all done in a safe environment, just to make sure that is clear. But definitely for me, it's not a safe environment for me to go to a bar. And I used to do it sometimes, but I always felt that the dates that I thrived on were those that were more what I want to do. So have a little think about how you like to date and try to request dates that are more in line with that. If somebody asks you for a drink, you could say, oh, for a first date, I would much prefer to go for a walk and a coffee. Is that okay with you? And there's nothing wrong with that because we don't all have to go for drinks. Definitely don't have to put ourselves in any position that we don't want to be in. And I really don't recommend going on a dinner date for a first date. Whenever I hear that, I think, oh, no, let's just scale it back. That should be a third date thing. Another way to help with the slow burn in dating is to do activities together. Because sometimes if you're just sitting opposite somebody and talking to them, like I said, we're all trying to portray our best selves, or maybe the blocks are there. But often if you go to do an activity, for example, some sort of a sport together, or maybe it's go bowling or playing pool, or I don't know, a joint activity. Maybe it can even be going to see a show together and then afterwards going to talk about it. Something that is like a bonding experience that you can connect is a really good way to break down those first date jitters or those first date nerves. But the main thing I want you to focus on here is that these dates are going to happen over time. If you live in a city, like for example, if you're living in London and you live a busy life, which most of us do, you're probably not going to see this person every single day for a week. It might be one or maybe maximum 2 dates a week once you get started dating. And that might feel slow. And I think that is a good sign. When you need to be with somebody every single day from the moment that you met, again, one of those love stories you've probably heard about, I don't think this is healthy. I think this is actually throwing yourself headfirst into somebody else's life and then throwing themselves into yours without truly paying attention to your everyday routines, the way that you live your life right now. The slow burn isn't about dragging things out unnecessarily. Of course, you don't have to have a specific timing, and I'm really against any timelines or deadlines when it comes to dating. But I think what it is about is just making sure that there is open communication, making sure that you don't rush things because you're feeling that pressure of wanting to know the answer, wanting to know how it's going to turn out. It's going into dating with a curiosity, but not a strong pressure. And I also think it's really important to keep very grounded during this time into your own life, not to change anything. Don't cancel plans with friends. Don't cancel your gym class. Don't leave work early or skip days. Don't do anything that's putting you in a position where you're not in your real life, because eventually this person will be in your real life. So you don't want to, change things in order to accommodate somebody, especially at the stage where you don't know if this person is going to be a feature, a consistent and permanent feature in your life. So how did that look when I was dating Ellie? So firstly, what really helped with the slow burn was that actually we saw each other twice in 1 week when we first switched our relationship into romantic, and then we both were going away. He was actually going on a 3-week trip to Iceland at the same time that I was having a break from work, and I was going on a trip to Egypt for a week. So we were both doing our own things. He was with his close friend, I was with mine, and we were in contact and we did speak a lot. We did send check-ins most days, but we actually had to put pause and put a break on things. And that for me was great. Now that's a very personal story, but I think that's what really helped us to navigate our relationship going very quickly because we have been friends before. So this is the message to all of you. If there is a trip coming up, there's nothing bad with that. It could also be a good thing that you're having the space and the distance to get to know each other more slowly. It also looked like not rushing ahead to label anything. We weren't rushing ahead to say exactly how we wanted things to be. Yes, we had lots of open conversations, and I did ask many questions, and we did have open conversation about starting a family. We acknowledged my age and the fact I'd frozen my eggs, but none of it was done in a threatening or attacking or fake way. It was open conversations, And a really good way to address those conversations when you're trying to keep up the slow burn is to not say, do you want to have children with me? It's, are you open to having children? The context is with somebody. So I think that's a really good way, is to frame those questions in a way that is general and more curious instead of more, let me tick this box so we can move to the next stage of dating. Here is the part that I think that we don't acknowledge enough. It's the part that we truly understand that dating and meeting somebody in our 30s does not always look like it does in the TV shows that we watch or in the movies that we are watching, because we are led to believe that fireworks, sparks, butterflies, romantic gestures, and just knowing from the minute that you walk into the room with this person is actually what's going to happen. And again, like I said at the start, that might happen, but more commonly it's a slow getting to know somebody. It's giving them a chance. It's benefit of the doubt. It's leaning into curiosity and consistency. And it often looks like slow growth. And sometimes those sparks and those butterflies, they just come later. And I'm a huge advocate for not making any decisions based on sparks and butterflies. I think that when you are falling for someone and the relationship is developing, you need to be asking the questions that are really important. Does this person share my values? Do I feel like myself here? Am I the one doing the choosing? Do our worlds coexist? Can they coexist? Do we have the same lifelong ambition? Do we have the same dreams? All of these things are checking compatibility. They're checking emotional intelligence and security. They are checking alignment. And that is what I think is a lot more important than focusing on that initial first click. Now, I talk a lot in this episode about values. I have a freebie, which is called the Dating Values Workbook. Now, I have linked that in the description so you can go, and it's a great exercise to do to understand what your own values are and the values that are important to you when you're looking for a relationship. Thousands of you have downloaded this guide, so I really truly believe it can help you on this first step to going more slowly when it comes to dating. I want to address that dating slow is more difficult when you feel that you are the age that you are. If you're feeling pressure, if you're feeling, well, I'm in my 30s, so I need to date quicker because I need to find this person quickly. Time is running out. My eggs are shriveling, whatever those thoughts are that you're having. This is actually what creates the fast burns. And this is what creates the rushing and skipping getting to know somebody, and can potentially lead us to getting into the wrong relationships. Believe me, I have been there. I want you to dissolve this belief. I want you to cast out this thinking, this perception that if you go slow, then things will always move slowly. As you can see from my story, and as I know from many stories, it's like almost go slow, go slow, go slow, go slow, and then things speed up very, very quickly. There's a really nice projection there, and I'm a huge advocate for that. I believe that going slow will get you into the relationship that you want faster. So it's all about maintaining the speed at the start, knowing and believing that it will progress as it's meant to progress later on down the line. So that's all I have to say on the slow burn for now. I think that this is an episode that hopefully will have landed with you. If you are feeling rushed, if you are feeling like you are expecting to just walk into the room and fireworks and just have this instant knowledge of this person being the one. And believe me, it is something that I see so often when it comes to my clients dating. So I truly, truly know that if you start dating slower, then things are going to be a lot better for you when it comes to your dating life. I'll see everybody on the podcast next week.